Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Yom Tov, or perhaps I should say it the other way around, since Yom Tov, which is Yom Kippur, is coming up first, and then we have Shabbat. So there's a lot going on this week, especially with Torah portions, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the upcoming Torah portion, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on for Yom Kippur in those particular Torah portions. But first, I want to do a shout out to the kids that handled a beautiful Friday night service. Bob Riegert, our co-principal, again, happy birthday to you. I think today is your birthday. And Carmen, thank you so much for sponsoring the oneg after the Friday night services. It was delicious. It was wonderful. And we had Bob's kids, Stephen and Leslie, come up, a couple of 10 and a half year olds come up and lead the service. We did an impromptu family service. They did a great job. Called up some kids and they handled it well, surprised everybody, but you know, these are smart kids. These kids are great. They rise to the challenge. And the one thing that we're learning about children and young adults is that when you start giving them more responsibility, putting them in charge, giving them things that they need to take care of, it's wonderful. It's so gratifying to see them rise to the challenge. It's sort of like the B'nai Mitzvot that they do. You give them a Haftorah portion, you tell them to chant the Hebrew with the vowels and the cantillation marks, and then give them a Torah portion to read where it's just the letters, and they rise to the occasion. It's beautiful. It's so gratifying to see. And you think about this, there's a time that's going to come, hopefully later more than sooner, that some of us older folks are not going to be around. And, you know, we'd like to feel that the future of Judaism is secure, and you know, we feel pretty confident about that. So let's talk a little bit about this upcoming Shabbat. Now, we're coming to the end of Devarim, of Deuteronomy. We've got two portions left. This one is Ha'azenu, so listen. And this is where Moshe Rabbeinu gives a little poem. It's a song. It's a piyut. A piyut is a Hebrew poem. And it's arranged in a very interesting pattern in the Torah. Now, here's the Chumash. And this is what, I don't expect you to see the words, but take a look, if you will, at the actual picture of what it looks like. And you will see the Hebrew. Of course, this is the Chumash, so it's got the English on the other side. And then it's got the Hebrew and then the commentary. Here is probably a little bit better picture. But you can see that there's two columns of words. It's a poem. It goes from one to the other. So there is a purpose to this particular pattern. What you see is two columns. And the commentary in the Tikkun, and the Tikkun is a book that talks about the actual wording of the Torah rather than a commentary of what the words mean. And it talks about how this resembles two columns. And a way of contrast, the Song of the Sea. Moses was taking the Israelites out of Egypt, got to the shores of the Sea of Reeds. The water parted, the Israelites went through in safety, and as the Egyptians came to follow them, the water closed up. Afterwards, a kind of a victory song, there was the Song of the Sea where Moses, Rabbeinu, praises God. This is what it looks like in the Torah. So it's a little bit of a different pattern. Instead of two columns, you see a line here, one there. So in class, I gave a little story. I said, you know, when I was back in Israel years ago, I got the job of stacking the bales of hay when we were out there. One guy would drive the trailer, two guys would be on the other side of the trailer, or three guys, four guys, whatever it was, throwing the bales on the cart, and I'd be the one to stack them. Now, which is a stronger pattern? If you're stacking bales of hay and you're going to be driving them all over the field and then over these bumpy roads, if you stack them like this, is this going to be stronger? Two columns? Or is this pattern going to hold them back like bricks? Well, obviously, this pattern is going to hold better. Why? Because the gravity of the bales of hay or the bricks hold it down, one on top here, which holds both of these, etc. But here, in Ha'azenu, you've got two columns. Not so strong. Witness Samson, one of the judges, one of our judges who protected Israel. He waged sort of a guerrilla warfare against the Philistines. And his long hair, he revealed to Delilah that was his weakness. Delilah was a spy for the Philistines. Cut his hair. He had no more strength. She blinded him. Or they blinded. The Philistines came in, took a hot sword and blinded him. And then when his hair grew back, he had his strength. He directed some kids to bring him to the hall where the Philistines were having some type of banquet or they were meeting, and he pushed the pillars away. The whole roof came down, killed the Philistines, killed himself. He sacrificed his life. See? So it wasn't exactly strong. Now, in this particular portion, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's continuing his prophecy. He's saying, you're going to get to the land. Hashem's going to support you. You're going to obey the commandments. You're going to get this prosperity. And then you're going to kind of lose sight of what's important. You're going to forget Torah. And the land's going to dry up. You're going to be conquered. You're going to be thrust out of the land. So the reason there are those two pillars, it's arranged that way, is because the Israelites were kind of unsteady. The prosperity happened. They forgot what was important to them. And as a result, they fell into idolatry. They forgot about Hashem. They didn't do the commandments. And Hashem, measure for measure. As you do to me, I will do to you. You don't support me, I won't support you. And as a result, we saw what happened. The first temple was destroyed. The Israelites were banished. The northern kingdom was dispersed. Who knows where they are. And the other Israelites were banished basically to Babylonia. Finally, they came back in the second temple. Same thing. A lot of them, the Greeks came in. Some of the Judeans became enamored with the Hellenistic, the Greek lifestyle, and they started doing that. And as a result, the second temple, the Romans came in, the second temple was destroyed too. This is kind of a warning. It's a warning that we have to stay true to our commandments. And sometimes it's not easy. I don't want to be kosher. Kosher meat's a lot more expensive than regular meat. All right, well, don't eat it so often. Vegetarian diet, they say, is very healthy, gluten-free, soy, all that, beans. It can be a little rough on the stomach, if you know what I mean, but you do what you can. You're living a righteous life. Why do we do these things? Why do we go to synagogue on Saturdays and we drive only there and back? We don't engage in commerce. It keeps us disciplined. It keeps us on track to obey the commandments. Because if you can do that, then things like loving your neighbor as yourself becomes a little bit easier. Not to cheat somebody in a business deal, take advantage of the fact that they don't have all the information. It's a little harder. It's a little bit more insecure. We want all the cards on our table. But you know what? You got to know that Hashem's going to support you. And if it doesn't work out, there's a reason. God's like God doesn't say no. He says, no, I've got something better in mind for you. So that's kind of the lesson there. Let's talk a little bit about Yom Kippur. There are two Torah readings for Yom Kippur. One in the morning, 6 aliyot, because it's during the week. And then there's one in the afternoon, Mincha, which is the afternoon. There's 3 aliyot. The one in the morning basically talks about the high priest, Aaron, who has to dress, talks about his change of clothes. He's in the white linen, then he's in the gold, then he puts back on the white, when he goes into the Holy of Holies to make sacrifice. The fact that the priest, the high priest, does his own sacrifice first. Now today, we have certain prayers like Hineni, during the Amidah, Misod Hachamim Unevonim Umilamech. Then it goes into a piyut. I don't remember all of it, but basically what it's saying is, I'm the Shliach Tzibor. I am the emissary of the congregation. I'm the one leading the prayers. I am one that is representing the congregation. I'm not the intermediary, but I'm mouthing the words, and the congregation says Baruch Hu Varach after Baruch Atah Adonai and Amen, to take it upon themselves. Amen comes from the word of truth, Emet. It means, yes, it's true. What you're saying is true. I agree with it. And I'm part of this too, even though I'm not actively saying the prayers. But before a cantor, a chazan, or the rabbi, myself, can pray on behalf of the congregation, we have to be pure too. So we're asking Hashem, we're saying, I know I'm weak, and I struggle with these things, but you know what? Help me keep my heart pure. Help me do, petition for their sake. Keep me pure. So that's really kind of the lesson for the morning Torah reading. The afternoon reading is a little bit more, let's call it tentative. Okay, it's kind of an R-rated version. It talks, the traditional reading from Leviticus chapter 18 talks about forbidden relationships. And Hashem says, when you come into the land, don't do what the Egyptians did in the land you just left. Don't do what the Canaanites did in the land in which you're approaching. Don't engage in forbidden relationships. It's man and woman. That's it. You want to make sure the woman is not real related to you. You don't marry sisters. You don't marry or have relationships with your father's wife or the daughter of whatever. Why do we do that? Because men have these temptations. We have, let's call it like it is. We have sexual temptations. How often does it get us in trouble? You've got the Me Too movement going on because men just can't control themselves. They can't find a healthy outlet. And that's what this is about. We have portions in our Torah for that reason, for that to let us know that, if you engage in a life of depravity, if you forget morality, it's going to lead to other things. You're going to start cheating people. You're going to start doing things you're not supposed to do, In Proverbs, the book written by Solomon, chapter 16, verse 23. Remember it because I try to live it. Who is strong? He who controls, or she who controls their passions. Very important. I will leave you with that. May you have an easy fast. Looking forward to seeing you on Yom Kippur. We're going to keep it flowing, keep it going, keep you entertained, keep your mind off food and water. But again, if you can't, you can't. If there are health reasons, then you have to go ahead and do what you need to do, so you keep your body healthy. Otherwise, may you be inscribed in the book of life. We will see you Yom Kippur. Looking forward to seeing you for next Shabbat too. Shabbat Shalom and good Yom.